Broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Welcome to another edition of the Radio Free California Network broadcast of the Tim Donnelly Show. And yes, I am your host, former California State Assemblyman Tim Donnelly, radio governor here in the state of California. And, you know, I really want to, we're getting close to Christmas, and I just really want to bring you a happy-go-lucky show. But when I look at the news, just take today. We've got Obama visiting San Bernardino on his way to Hawaii. He's going to drop in. He's going to then jet away. And here's the thing. First of all, it's way too late. There's a number of... the ABC went out and interviewed a number of the parents... the families of the victims, and mixed reactions. Let me read you. In the aftermath of the massacre, two victims' relatives described conflicting emotions. One hopeful, the other filled with doubt. It doesn't bring her back, said Evelyn Godoy, whose sister-in-law, Aurora Godoy, was killed in the attack. She said she couldn't help but feel like we were just a throw-in after reading the president was stopping in San Bernardino while en route to Hawaii for his annual holiday golfing getaway. Robel Tekaleb, whose brother Isaac Amanios was killed, said he greatly admires Mr. Obama and wants him to know who Amanios was. His presence itself is comforting. And look, I have stated, I'm glad the president is at least stopping in. Even though it is way too late, he is stopping in. Because the families need that to some extent. Some of them will consider it perhaps an irritant. Others will consider it to be something worthwhile, something positive. And here's the thing. Why didn't he just come before? This is a national tragedy. This is something that happened in a medium-sized city, an average-sized city. Something that affected average Americans of all walks of life, of all races, and many of them came from very small towns. What's the downside? That's what I don't understand. The president doesn't have that much to do anyway. He generally golfs. He skips security briefings. Why couldn't he have just come here before? Why couldn't he have made us a priority instead of making us an afterthought? You know what it's like, right? It's like Valentine's Day. And guys, you've all done this at some point in your life, mostly when you're really young and dumb. You forget to get a gift. You forget all about it. You're busy. You're caught up in work or hanging out with the guys or whatever. Totally forget your sweetheart. You don't get her anything. So at the last minute, while you're in the car taking her out to a last-ditch dinner, you stop off at a gas station, you run and try to find a card or something while she's in the car, or even while she's in the store with you, or a grocery store, something. It's pathetic. It's insulting. Because you know what? There's a lack of forethought. It's called an afterthought. And it actually makes a person feel worse, not better. Now, I can't speak for the families and would never even dare to, but I can speak as an American. I can speak as someone whose community has been rocked by this tragedy. It is insulting, and it is pathetic I wonder who told Obama he's supposed to pretend to care. Somebody obviously did. Somebody told him he wasn't polling well, and flying over California and skipping it all together, and even after the 3 pathetic speeches he gave, would be an even bigger mistake. And so naturally he's going to actually land Air Force One and bring his august company here. Pathetic. It's truly pathetic. It is insulting. It is embarrassing. And the only thing worse is watching what's going on in Washington, D.C. Seeing the Republicans sell us out. I mean, Donald Trump said they threw in the towel. You've got a budget, a $1 trillion budget. They didn't want to fight over it. They didn't want to haggle over it. They didn't want to do their job because they wanted to get out of there, go on vacation, not have contentious fights just before Christmas. You know what? Your job is to have contentious fights. Your job is to stand up for the American people. We sent you there, and we can take you back. This is disgusting and despicable what they did. Because when you find out what's in it, in a $1 trillion, 2,000-page omnibus budget plan, there's a whole lot to hate and not very much to like. By the way, we are funding 300,000 immigrants from Muslim countries. That's been put on autopilot. We are funding the president's emergency Syrian refugee program to continue. All the stuff that we've been debating, all the stuff that's been debated in the presidential elections, in the debates, by the presidential candidates, it's all being funded fully. No, not even an attempt to put an amendment in there to pull any of this egregious stuff out. We already told you yesterday, $1.68 billion with a B to help resettle illegals all over the country once they cross our border, especially the children who seem to be coming from everywhere. That's just morally wrong. If children are coming into this country illegally, we have an obligation to reunite them with their parents. Now, I get it if their parents are here. We should reunite them with their parents here. And if their parents are here illegally, we should reunite them and then deport them. And if their parents are in a foreign country thousands of miles away, we're a great country. We can afford a plane fare for some children and maybe even some kind of an official escort to get them home. This is insane. This is absolute abject insanity to be resettling them all over the U.S. and spread them into all different states so that you will never have one place like Murrieta where people rise up against the policy. Almost everything our government is doing right now is designed to thwart the will of the people and seize control and limit the input and limit the ability that we have to register our dissent, to register our anger, to register the backlash of anger and fury that is rising up among the American people. So if you thought you were going to tune in today and get some kind of a happy-go-lucky holiday Christmas show where you could feel good, well, you know what? We do have one light moment in the show a little bit later on. We are going to have my good friend Rob Schneider, who has agreed to call in. He's been promoting his show, Real Rob, all over the country. He's going to call in from Dallas. And believe me, we aren't going to be talking any politics. We will be talking humor. And you will love his new show if you have an irreverent sense of humor. Anyway, let's take a quick break here. 323-746-TALK. Be right back after this. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm going to bring you a Christmas-related story. You're not going to be able to believe it. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to that now or a little bit later on. we've got a clip of a Virginia school, public school in Virginia, that will shock you. What they decided to send home as homework. Listen to this story. I'm going to let you listen to it straight from CNN because they'll give you the background and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. This is out of Augusta County, Virginia. Outrage over Islamic homework. Here it is.
Thank you, Jesus. Be here with us tonight.
Kimberly Herndon says she felt her rights as a parent had been violated when her 9th grade son came home with this homework assignment. It asked him to copy the Shahada, the Islamic statement of faith, which translates to, "There is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." When asked about her reaction to the assignment, she'll tell you.
Shocked that it was sent home, shocked that that was in the school, shocked that it was happening right here in our small town.
The assignment says it's meant to give students an idea of the artistic complexity of calligraphy. Herndon says she feels the assignment tried to indoctrinate her child into the Islamic religion.
There was no trying about it. The sheet that she gave out was pure doctrine in its origin.
Augusta County School Superintendent Dr. Eric Bond says neither these lessons nor any other lesson in the world geography course are an attempt at indoctrination to Islam or any other religion or a request for students to renounce their own faith or profess any belief. He went on to say the lesson attempts objectively to present world religions in a way that's interesting and interactive for students.
One student we spoke with said she didn't feel comfortable completing this assignment, even if it just was for calligraphy.
If it was, why couldn't we just learn to write hello, goodbye, normal words, not that.
On Tuesday night, dozens of people met at Good News Ministries to voice their own opinion. Herndon has not sent her child back to school since the incident happened last week.
I will not have my children set under a woman who indoctrinates them with the Islam religion when I am a Christian, and I want to stand behind Christ.
Meanwhile, the school maintains that the lesson is consistent with the standards of learning in Virginia.
Consistent with the standard of learnings, not indoctrination. Really? If they wanted to teach calligraphy, why didn't they just do calligraphy with Christmas cards? Or why didn't they say, hey, do a Christmas card or do a Hanukkah card or do a whatever Muslims do at Christmas time? I'm sure nothing. Okay, hello. Or, draw something about Ramadan, but you do your own deal. But for them literally to pick, there is no other God but Muhammad, but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger as the actual message within the assignment. And on the other, somewhere else in the South, in Kentucky, there was an outrage at Johnson County School District where they played, this one you'll understand. They played a really radical. They wanted to indoctrinate the students into the true meaning of Christmas. And it was expunged. It was driven out. It was shut down from the Christmas program because one person complained, and next thing you know, they censored the play at W.R. Castle Elementary School and said that you cannot have mentions of religion in school programs. Now, by the way, the source of the offensive material is something that has been played on network television for like the past 25, 30 years. Something you and your children have probably watched many, many times. Maybe you watched it as a child. Deeply offensive, deeply offensive. I'm warning you, if you have children in the car, you might want to switch the channel and go listen to one of the other boring hosts that will be a sycophant for the GOP while we play this deeply, deeply controversial and offensive piece of material that was in a Christmas program or banned from a Christmas program in Kentucky, while in Virginia they're teaching the doctrine of Islam. Check it out.
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. Behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you.
How many of you saw that as a child? How many of you, and you know, it doesn't matter if you are a Christian, it matters that the meaning of Christmas is the birth of Christ. That is just a fact. That is an incontrovertible piece of history. Now, citing the doctrine of Islam and saying there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, that is indoctrination. Citing that the real meaning of Christmas is the birth of Christ and reading from an historical account in the scriptures of the story of Christmas, given that we celebrate Christmas so overwhelmingly in this country, is nothing but a reflection of our society and always has been. But see, in recent times, politicians are no longer afraid of the people because the people have lost their power because lawyers, on behalf of one individual, one single person, was able to shut down Christmas for all the kids and take all the meaning out of it. So now it's all about Santa Claus and gifts and things that negate that it was about something larger. And see, political correctness is threatening your rights because there is no freedom from religion. There's supposed to be a freedom of religion. That's what the First Amendment's about. And it's being erased. Unless, of course, you're pushing Islamic indoctrination. 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls when you hear the music coming back. So be ready to dial. 323-746-TALK.
Hello to friends you know and everyone you meet.
See, I wanted to give you a little bit of Holly Jolly Christmas there because a lot of you are probably out Christmas shopping if you're not on your way to Las Vegas. And hey, you know, it's Friday afternoon and maybe you don't want to get involved in controversy, but I am curious what you think because this political correctness that is threatening your rights, threatening my rights every single time we turn around, whether it's our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, here, Christmas. Just simply discussing the historical reason for which we have Christmas. It isn't about St. Nick. It isn't about presents. It was about Christ being born in Bethlehem, which, by the way, is a fascinating story if you think about it. I mean, if you put it in context to today, here you have this couple who are not even married, which is scandalous. She is with child, and they have to traverse 90 miles from where they are to Bethlehem. And why are they doing it? Because they're going to do a census, a registration, but they're also going to collect taxes. So not only you have to give your name and how many are in your household, but you have to pay the government. Yeah. So that was the backdrop to Christ's birth. And it was certainly inauspicious. There was no room in the inn. Had to be wrapped in swaddling cloth and laid in a manger in a barn. But you can't talk about it now. Public schools. Because people get their lawyers, and it's not just people. There's an entire agenda that is set to shut down religion. And you know, it's one thing to say, hey, look, I don't believe, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a believer, I really don't want to partake. Hey, fine. It's a free country. Nobody's going to force you. Christmas program, it's volitional. You can go, not go, whatever. But it is a Christmas program. It is about Christmas. So if you go to the Christmas program, there's a high likelihood that you are going to hear something about Christ. But see, the name of Christ, Jesus Christ, Son of God, the very name sends shudders through some people, and it sends shudders through those who would rather have it denied. They have no problem with other religions. They have no problem promoting Islam a couple of states over and pushing doctrine. Here, there was no doctrine being pushed, by the way. There was no point in that Charlie Brown Christmas special, the one that's been run on network television, where it says that you must accept the Lord Jesus Christ into your heart, develop a personal relationship with him, and then you will go to heaven and have salvation. They didn't say that, did they? Did they say that in there? Can we play that again? Because I just want to make sure that's not in there.
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that was it. And you know what that is, right? All that is Luke's account from the Gospels. And a lot of the gospel is not gospel. It is actual, just a record of events from the viewpoint of several individuals. And Luke's is the one most often cited. He was a doctor. He was a physician. And there is nothing in there to indoctrinate you. It is simply an accurate account of an historical event. But see, in our politically correct world, they're allowed to shut that down. And you know what? We can't allow this to happen anymore. I know it might make you uncomfortable. We talk a lot on this show about informing, educating, and engaging. There's a point at which you just must engage. And you know what? You can, there are groups and organizations, and in this case, the Americans Defending Freedom, which is a nonprofit legal group. Just looking for the... the Alliance Defending Freedom. It's a Christian organization. It's a Christian legal organization. They sent a letter saying there is no violation of the so-called separation of church and state by allowing children to learn about theater and the origins of Christmas through participating in a stage version of this beloved program that contains the same religious elements as the television version. And ADF's lawyers said courts consistently have ruled that Christmas programs in schools, in public schools, can include religious references, concluding that there is no basis for the district's censorship. There's no justification for it whatsoever. The school district completely misunderstands the First Amendment. Senior counsel Jeremy Tedesco said in a statement. And yet, you have the silencing and the censoring and the shutdown of religious freedom. That's what this is. While at the same time, you have school districts acting, once again, as the state, promoting Islam. Not promoting knowledge of the history of Islam, not promoting knowledge of historical events and characters, but literally promoting doctrine and having the children write out in calligraphy, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Now, when you multiply that by the fact that they're pushing Islam during the Christmas season, when Americans have been killed in the name of Islam, when there are children, countless children now, who have no parents or have lost a parent or a loved one, it's despicable. And I don't even understand where these people come from, but I do. See, I feel like John in North Carolina is going to get all over my stuff today because I just finished saying I don't know where it comes from, but I do. Because I had the misfortune when my sister was graduating, or actually her husband was graduating from the Bolton Law School, which is a law school out of University of California, Berkeley. And I remember being at the graduation ceremony, and it was one of the most offensive things I have ever attended in my entire life. Keynote speaker was then mayor of San Francisco, now lieutenant governor, who wants to be your next governor, gun-grabbing Gavin Newsom. And he was talking about gay marriage and how wonderful it was and what a bunch of horrible, horrific, idiotic, hateful people that Christians were. And for the next hour, I actually sent my kids up to play football at the top of this historic stadium they have there so they wouldn't be indoctrinated. But I listened. And it was very painful because they're very organized. They use the state-sponsored education establishment to promote all of their causes. And they literally have lawyers who are graduating from law school who will be funded by these very wealthy groups and organizations that are funded by the George Soroses and the one percenters with the express purpose of stamping out God, of attacking and assaulting American values. I don't even say conservative values, American values, of undermining the rule of law. And see, when you send lawyers, an army of lawyers, and as they were introducing, you know, it was one thing to give everybody their diploma, but then they brought up these people and they said, these These 7 are going over here to do a full-blown assault on the Christian right. And these over here are going to go after all the anti-immigrant haters, all those hateful people. We're going to take them down. And these people here are going to go after, this group. And every time they were always targeting the values of ordinary Americans. The rule of law, when it comes to immigration, meaning, hey, we're happy with legal immigration because we have some say-so over it, but illegal immigration is a catastrophe. It is a detriment. It is an undermining of the rule of law. Well, you have these lawyers who are being paid to undermine the rule of law. And they're good at it. And they keep winning. And America keeps losing. And that has to change. 323-746 Talk. We'll be right back after this. Three, 323-746 Talk is our number. 323-746-8255. If you wish to get in on the discussion, I saw a couple of you called during the break, but you got to call when you hear the music coming back from break. And look, this is a hot topic because it affects everyone, and it's a slippery slope. Once you get to a point where you tolerate the indoctrination by the government on the one hand, and then you tolerate the banning and censorship and outcasting, the excommunication of something that is appropriate and historical and has stood up to Supreme Court challenges and everything else, what do you have left? You don't have any freedom. There is no freedom if you cannot speak the truth. And the truth historically, in an historical context about Christmas, is from the scriptures, but you're not putting in there an altar call. There's no call to come worship like there was in the example in Virginia. And what is with these people who are running our schools, who can defend these policies with a straight face? And they never get challenged because most people don't know their rights. Most people don't know the Constitution. Thankfully, parents in both of these schools protested and pushed back. And the assignments in the Virginia school need to be thrown out. That is a religion class, which, by the way, if you want to teach a class on religion, you know what? It would be fully appropriate, because then you would be teaching the doctrine of Islam. You'd be teaching the doctrine of the Jewish faith. You'd be teaching the doctrine of the Christian faith. You'd be teaching the doctrine of whatever. And that would be appropriate. It would be appropriate in an educational setting. And I wouldn't have an issue with that. But when you're doing calligraphy in I don't know why you would do calligraphy in a geography class, but fine. If you wanted to teach them how to write some words in Arabic, fine, but just don't have them be the actual call to prayer practically of Islam. This is so far beyond the pale, and yet Americans aren't quite sure what to do. There's always some ringleader in each community who stands up, but it's not organized. It's nothing like what I described to you that is going on in the educational establishments of the left, where they send shock troops out into the field whose full-time paid job is to work pro bono to destroy your values, to assault everything you believe in, to undermine the rule of law, and not fight for legal immigrants, but fight for those who are illegally here, help them gain legal rights that they're not entitled to, and fundamentally transform the country into their image, into their ideology. And by the way, it's done through state schools. But most of the money that sponsors the lawyers, or I would say all of it, when they get out, is private. So it's not illegal. But you're paying for the undergrad. You're paying to subsidize the actual law schools that are there. And so if you ever wonder, if you're at a party and people are wondering, how could this ever happen? Tell them. Tell them. Because we need a lot more people to wake up before we're going to be able to successfully compete in the battleground, not just of ideas, but strategies to fight for what this country was founded on, which is freedom, not censorship. 323-746-TALK. We'll be right back after these messages. We got Rob Schneider coming up. Before you start thinking this is a music channel, I gotta break in on a great Journey song. You know, being from Detroit, we had such great music coming out of that town. Bob Seger, and I just always felt like Journey was singing about my town. Maybe they weren't. I don't know, but they're so amazing. We are going to be joined at some point during the show by Rob Schneider, a friend of mine, talking about his new comedy. I always try and do something on Fridays that's not political. I know it's not easy because I tend to be a little bit hyper political. Yeah, surprise, surprise. And many of you are probably out Christmas shopping, could probably use a laugh because my wife was telling me earlier, everybody was so angry and they're fighting for parking spots and the stores are crowded and there's everyone's short on temper, or actually they're short-tempered, meaning they're long on temper. They have lots of temper to give away. Short on patience is really what I should say. And so certainly you need something to laugh about. You're not going to get a lot to laugh about from me today, unfortunately, unless or until I should say Rob calls in. But I'm because I'm going to go into a rant here while we're waiting, and this omnibus budget bill, and if you're wondering what that means, it's just a fancy Washington word for a colossal cluster bleep. You know what I mean? Or a monolithic mountain of horse manure. It is. I like colossal cluster bleep because it's so descriptive. It's so accurate. You are literally going to be funding 300,000 visas for Muslim immigrants in 1 year. So basically, a majority of the House Republicans, including, if you're listening on Talk 960, your representative is Congressman Paul Cook. He voted for this omnibus disaster. So you should be lighting up his phones, letting him know how you feel about that. A majority of House Republicans voted for the measure which fully funds Obama's refugee resettlement operation, all Middle Eastern immigration programs, sanctuary cities, and Obama's continued executive amnesty for Dreamers, and the resettlement, the $1.6 billion for the resettlement of illegal aliens within the U.S. interior. And I don't even know if I want to read this sentence. In perhaps a display of loyalty to Paul Ryan, the new speaker. 3/5 of the Republican conference supported the legislation, and then they gave him a standing ovation following the bill's passage. And there's all kinds of other stuff in it that is just anti-American. There's stuff in there pushing different agendas that would offend you, pushing an anti-gun agenda, which deeply offends me because the Second Amendment is inculcated. It is ensconced in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. And I consider any assault on the Second Amendment to be an assault on the people because it is the people's natural right. This is a natural right as a human being that you possess to defend your own life with all means necessary. That's what this is really all about. I had a crazy thought, a little detour here. Can you imagine if you were teaching the history of World War II, and then in the middle of teaching the history of World War II, if the same teachers or a different group of teachers, but conservative teachers that are committed to America, said, "Hey, we want to teach you about the gun culture here in America." First of all, it would freak the liberals out. It would freak the leftists out. And if they said, "Hey, we're going to bring in some guns tomorrow. We're going to show you what they look like. We're going to take them apart. We're going to put them back together. We're going to take you out to a range. We're going to teach you how to shoot. We're going to have NRA certified, teachers there." And they've done this kind of stuff at public schools before. But now it's all verboten. But just imagine if they did that. And then if they explained, "Hey, this rifle here is World War II history. This is an M1 Garand. This is a gun that, of course, many of you students see it in your video games. How many kids haven't played Call of Duty when that little aluminum clip, and it is a clip, it's not a magazine, it's a clip, it makes a very distinct noise as it goes ching and goes flying off into the distance in slow motion in Call of Duty. Well, in real life, you had a whole bandolier of these clips, and you'd pull them out. The bullets are very pointy. You've got to have them perfectly lined up, by the way. Otherwise, it'll jam the gun. But if you've done your work right, your prep work, and you've got them all in place, you could have that thing, the clip be discharged, and grab a new clip and press it in there. And typically what would happen is you would get Garand thumb, as they would call it, because it would the action comes tearing back and rips off part of your thumb. Sorry, but that's life. And you could do it in a matter of seconds. And now you got 8 more rounds. 8 more deadly rounds of 30-06 that you're able to fire at the enemy until that thing goes cling again. And that's a warning to you, but it also alerts your enemy that you are out. So, best time to shoot you is when you're actually reloading. So you have to get hunker down. But can you imagine if they took them out to the range and live fired and walked them through gun safety and walked them through the fundamentals of firearms and said this was just a recreational project for gym class? And indoctrinated them into the gun culture. The lefties would be coming unglued, but they got no problem indoctrinating your kids into Islam. Hey, let's just give you a full-on. We're going to full-on give you the whole. It would be like in the Peanut. The Charlie Brown Christmas special saying, there is no God but the one living God, and Jesus Christ is his son, and the Holy Ghost, and between the three of them, they make up the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. Well, that's pure, unadulterated doctrine. And that belongs in a church. It belongs in a private setting. It is not something that the government should be pushing. Period. So there I said it. With Christian theology, we would not tolerate the pushing of Christian theology within a public school, because then it looks as if the state is sponsoring and establishing, quote unquote. That's the whole establishment clause of the First Amendment. And the government is not to establish or prohibit the free exercise thereof. So there you have it. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will take some of your calls, but I'm not going to give the number till we come back because too many of you call and then you hang up. And by the way, if you do call, we don't have a screener, so you're going to be on hold for a while until I pick you up. So just stay there. So our call-in number is 323-746-TALK. And we have been talking about the current events. And of course, as you know, within several hours of now, Obama's plane is scheduled to touch down at 7:40 p.m. And then he's going to take off at 9:35 p.m. on his way to Hawaii for his annual Christmas golfing vacation. And in that time period, he's going to give a little bit of time to the families of the victims, which not the worst thing in the world, but the timing couldn't be worse. He should have come before. He should have actually made a single trip out and said, hey, you're important. You're valuable. You are the reason that I am going to California, but he isn't. He's chosen not to. I'm going to go to the phones, get your reaction. Give me your first name and city, please.
My name is Dan out of Victorville.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Doing good. Let me tell you what I've done. Yesterday I was Tom Cruise fan, and today what I've done is I have donated $900 to California State Democrat Party and the United States Democrat Party. I am so fed up with the Republicans that we're slowly going over a cliff. We need to go over the cliff fast and rebuild. This country is gone down the wrong path. I mean, it's so frustrating to see what the Republicans are doing with us.
What do you mean?
We put them in power to push our agenda, not Obama's. Not give them a gift more than they asked for. Here's a gift. You know, and they're pushing us over a cliff faster than Obama would have. If we would just let the Democrats make this omnibus bill, it'd been a lot easier on it.
Dan, let me ask you a question. If the Republican Party, let's just pretend for a minute that I'm the Republican Party and I'm calling you for a donation. Hey, Dan. This is Tim with the Republican Party. We're ready for your yearly contribution. What do you say, buddy? It's a great time. We're going to keep Hillary out of the White House. Can we count on you for $1,000?
I already gave my $900 to the DNC today.
You're saying by giving to the Democrat Party, you're supporting the Republican Party.
Well, they're going slower than we are. Democrat Party didn't want to spend as much as the Republicans did on this bill.
Isn't that shocking? I mean, they do this at Christmas time when people are tuned out, and they think nobody's paying attention.
And you look at Fox News, they say we're scared. We're not scared of terrorists. We're frustrated with the Republican Party, and we're pissed. We're not scared of them, guys.
Say it again. We're not scared. We're pissed. We're mad. We're mad as hell.
Yes. And I tell you what, yesterday morning I was voting for Ted Cruz. I'll take Donald Trump if he's the one, but today it's like, you know what? Let's go Hillary Clinton and just push it over the edge and get it over with. Rebuild it.
Yeah, no, I see your point. I mean, what?
Yeah,
why?
If you're in a car going over a cliff. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! I need to let you talk. You're just getting me so worked up, Dan. I'm getting all fired up.
Yeah,
I'll rant after you hang up.
Yeah, if you're in a car going over a cliff, are you just going to ease your way over the cliff, or are you just going to punch it?
Hey, might as well go out in a blaze of glory, right? Go out in a blaze of glory. You got it. Wow. Now, you are the first person Dan, you're the first person I've ever heard who has called this program who has said, look, I have staked a flag. I want to see the Republican Party go down in flames so that we can at least, get something done in this country.
Yes, I voted for Ronald Reagan. Second term was my first vote, and I have voted nothing but Republican since then. I'm conservative. I am more conservative than Reagan is because he was more liberal on the social issues than I am. I am a staunch conservative, and I see what they've done to me. And Paul Ryan was supposed to be conservative.
Paul Ryan, see, I tried to warn people on this show when they brought his name up that he is not conservative. But see, there's something that happens, and they kind of silence dissent. And even the 40 Freedom Caucus members were kind of quiet on the whole thing and just let it happen. And this is a sad commentary, but you know what? I'm excited to hear the enthusiasm of Americans who are fighting for America. It ain't about a party anymore. This is about our country. No. This is about our freedom.
It is. It is. I talked to the Republican National Committee today, and they made me so sick with their comments, I hung up the phone. I donated $500 to the DNC in Washington. Then I talked to the State Department today of Republican. I talked to the Republican State Committee today, California, and they made me so sick. And I called and donated $400 to the Democrats.
So 900
Democrats.
900 for the Democrats.
And I'm about,
zero.
And I think after I pay this credit card bill, I might do another $400 to the county. I don't know.
Well, keep your powder dry, Dan.
My wife's going to kill me when she sees the bill.
Well, if she's listening, she just found out. Dan from Victorville in trouble on the 15 freeway on his way home. Anyway, Dan, thanks for the call. We will.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you. Going to take one more call as we go into the break here. You got about a minute. Go for it.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm still laughing from Dan.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Hey, my big question of the day is, speaking of how our own party just keeps letting us down, and where was Marco Rubio?
He skipped the vote.
Yeah. What's the deal?
What
with
is that? What does that say about him?
Is that playing it safe or what? Is that a hedging your bets or what are you doing there?
Well, of course, but then here's the thing: if you're going to skip the vote, you can't skip decisions as president.
Yeah, well, when you got people asking him to resign because he's not doing this job very well, you want to give him a bigger job. It doesn't work that way in the company I work for. I don't know how it works in our government, but that's the biggest shocker of the day to me.
Yeah. I mean, Rubio skipping the vote. You've got one senator who came out, one lone senator who came out firing. That was Jeff Sessions, warning what this is really all about. But you heard it from Dan. I mean, the Republicans are increasing spending faster than the Democrats.
Well, and you got Rand Paul. He's trying.
Well, God help us all. Anyway, Merry Christmas. We will take more of your calls when we come back. I used to listen to this Bob Seger song when I was a teenager, dreaming about being that Midwestern boy being led along by some Hollywood star. And, hey, you know what? Worse things could have happened. I do actually hang out with quite a few Hollywood stars just because it's the nature of the business. And Rob Schneider is promoting a new show. And you know, it's kind of crazy because it's on Netflix. Netflix is now not just a place where you can watch old movies. They are now doing two things. Let me rephrase that. They've been doing the distribution. But in the future, and even now, they're producing their own stuff, their own content. They're acting as a studio which is revolutionizing the entire film industry and the way that content is delivered. You can see a brand new movie. You can see a brand new series. You don't have to watch commercials. You don't have to leave your home. That's pretty cool. You know, I spent a lot of time talking about things that are wrong, and believe me, if Rob doesn't call in soon, I'm going to simply go on a rant, which is what I'm likely to do right now. But here's the thing. I'm looking, and by the way, thanks for the calls earlier, guys, because you made some great points. I haven't even been able to get through half of the horrible things that are in this Republican betrayal. It is a cluster. It is a colossal cluster. You know what? It is an insult. It is so bad that you actually had Obama before he jumped on the plane to come out here to California on his way to, as a refueling stop on his way to Hawaii. You actually had Obama picking up the phone and calling and thanking Paul Ryan. He was saying, thanks for putting through everything I wanted. Thanks for the Christmas gift. Well, he probably wouldn't say Christmas. He's probably offended by that. Thanks for the Ramadan gifts, or whatever the heck he calls them, since I have my sincere doubts he's a Christian. Not that he has to be. It's, but I think he's pretended to be one. And then when it came down to owning his own minister, he didn't want to own his own minister, that Jeremiah Wright guy that is out there ranting and raving about how horrible America is and how he'd like to see America brought to its knees. And that's what he would preach every Sunday. But I was outside shoveling some snow earlier today, and we had this little tiny, infinitesimal, ridiculous snowfall that literally was barely, not even an inch. I'd say half to a quarter of an inch, packed down, iced over, the worst driving and walking conditions you can ever have, period. And with the global warming, it hasn't helped. It's actually gotten colder. And in the first couple of days, it was in the 20s and below. And the sun hasn't really melted it off. So I'm out there scraping it. You're going along, and all of a sudden you hit a crack in the driveway, and you lurch backwards because if you're using a metal blade shovel, you just can't. Yeah, I realize a lot of you are probably saying, "Hey, we don't have that problem." Okay. Well, I got really ticked off while I was doing that, because I was thinking, why do we have a Republican Party? I think we need to review. So instead of being the loyal opposition, which the Republicans were, think back to Newt Gingrich. You've got Bill Clinton in the presidency. You got loyal Republican soldiers, foot soldiers, political foot soldiers under Newt Gingrich. They're disciplined. He's got a plan, contract for America, and he presents it. They win the midterm elections. They shift the balance of power, which is exactly how the founders intended it. Everything's working perfectly. And they were able to stonewall and stop many of the bad ideas Bill Clinton had, which ultimately resulted in a decent economic turnaround for the country. And part of it, Clinton gets the credit, because that's what happens when you're on the job. But in the end, it was a lot of it was the Congress. So I just want to walk you through. I know this could be painful. but I want to walk you through the Obama years. So under Obama, we got Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious, if you don't know what that is, was a program to traffic guns. Yes, the Obama administration trafficked assault weapons to terrorists, to drug cartel terrorists. Yes, they sent these down. They had straw buyers along the border towns who then delivered them to the cartel go-betweens. And then the guns were put in the hands of the cartels, who then murdered Americans, including Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. And what did the Republicans do? Yeah, you heard it. Nothing. I'm going to go to the phones here for a minute. And give me your first name and city, please.
Hello, Mr. Donnie. It's Marianne again from Yermo.
Hi, Marianne. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. You were talking about Virginia with that exercise that they sent home.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of those parents that when my oldest, she's in her 20s now, they like to see me come smiling, and if not, the principal usually met me. I would have to have talked to the governor, at least go through his office, go through my senators, because that's unforgivable. And last time I checked, this is in God we trust. And I also believe that the Pledge of Allegiance should be back in all our schools. If they don't like it, I'm sorry, go back to your country.
Yeah, no, I agree. We pledge allegiance to a single flag because that is part of what we are as a country, and we are one nation under God, and we're indivisible. And see, under Obama, he has made us divisible. He has divided the country, and this sort of thing would never be tolerated if you were teaching Christian theology as an exercise in calligraphy. But when it's Islamic theology, no problem. We have no problem. And what is the one sentence they picked out of all the things in this book called the Shahada? That there's one God, and Allah is his name. And by the way, that's the same Allah and Allahu Akbar that they shout before they blew up people along the route of the Boston Massacre, before they went into Fort Hood and slaughtered some of our troops, and did the same in Chattanooga, and did the same in 9/11, and on all those planes they shouted Allahu Akbar. They were talking about Allah and their allegiance to Allah. So you want your kids learning that crap? I'm sorry.
Oh, hell. Nope. And people that did that should all be terminated and given the opportunity to either apologize or, if they're born here, I don't know what to say about that, but they'd be deported. That's treason. To me,
well, yeah. No, this is Virginia. They're very likely not illegal aliens running the schools. That would be something we would do here in California.
They can pick if they want to be here, but you don't do that. That's just ridiculous and unacceptable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unacceptable.
And see, what has happened is the left is expert at gaming the ignorance and the lack of knowledge of the American people of their rights. People are so busy trying to make a living and pay their taxes and set aside money for the kids, and health care has gone up, and you got all these stresses and pressures, and when do you have time to read the Constitution? When do you have time to sort of be a constitutional lawyer? Well, most people don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, did you hear what happened in Michigan the other day?
Not particularly.
They were carrying ISIS flags. I don't know what city they were in.
That must have been Dearborn. That must have been Dearborn.
Did absolutely nothing. No arrest, no nothing. Those were terrorists. Did absolutely nothing.
I found out about the peaceful religion of Islam when I was sitting at a traffic light and had the misfortune of having one of those electric back windows, and I had an old beat-up Ford, the fumes were coming in the car. So it was summer, so I rolled up the window, even though I had let it down to for heat, or I'm sorry, for cool, so we could cool off because we'd been playing soccer. And as soon as I rolled it up, the four Middle Eastern guys in the car behind me got out of their car, came up and tried to open my door. I had hit the electric locks, and then they started kicking in the panels of my car because there was a Jewish Star of David on that window from the previous owner, and I had no idea. I was completely innocent. I was like, wow, what are these guys doing? I knew they were not there. They didn't look happy. They were very, very angry.
Yep.
What's that?
That's the time to take them out. I'm sorry.
Well, hey, I was 16 and didn't know anything, but let me tell you. Anyway, I got to take a break. But Marianne, thanks for your call, and Merry Christmas to you. 323-746-TALK. Be right back with more after this. Hey, if you're just tuning in, this is the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. Before Marianne called in, I was getting into a righteous rant against the Republican Party. All right, so let's review the Obama years. We had Fast and Furious, which was trafficking guns to terrorists, trafficking guns to the drug cartels, let me rephrase that. It was the government trafficking assault weapons. Did you hear that? Assault weapons. That's supposed to be scary because they're scary looking. Well, in some cases, they are assault weapons. I mean, geez, a 50 cal, that they've banned anything that can fire more than one round in a 50 cal in California, and they've banned a number of different types of 50 cals in California, and yet a 50 cal has never, ever been used in a single crime. But they had no problem selling those to terrorists, to drug cartels, who then killed one of our Border Patrol agents on December 23rd of 2010. And just literally this month, so 5 years later, they finally sentenced those who shot him. The illegal aliens have now received life in prison, even though they should have gotten the death penalty. But we never give that because Mexico has negotiated and refuses to give people back or cooperate if we give any of their countrymen who have killed Americans the death penalty. Okay, so then let's move on to other issues. How about Obamacare? There's a big fight over Obamacare. We brought people in. We literally took Ted Kennedy's Senate seat and gave it to a Republican just to oppose Obamacare. And the lackluster, weak-kneed Republicans couldn't even get the job done. They couldn't defeat one of the most unpopular government takeovers of an industry that this country has ever seen. Epic fail. Because they don't know how to fight the media. They don't know how to win over public opinion. They don't know how to fight, period, because they'd rather cave, they'd rather negotiate, they'd rather give away and sell out your interest than actually stand up and fight. So another big fat zero, a goose egg. How about Planned Parenthood? Remember that? And by the way, this ain't about abortion. Abortion's legal in this country. But when you take $500 million of taxpayer money and you're selling body parts and you have this cavalier attitude about it as if it's not even a human life, people get disgusted. And it was despicable. It was like watching the Nazis take apart human beings and then sell off their fillings at the gas chambers. I mean, it was really something. And it was a righteous cause. And so the Republicans had a chance to defund it. That's all. Just defund it. Just take taxpayer dollars. Nope. Epic fail. Another goose egg. Obama's executive amnesty. They were brought in to take out his dreamer and his executive amnesty that he just grants here and there with his magic wand. All they had to do is defund it. They would have been criticized by the leftist media, but they're always criticized by the leftist media. If the leftist media is thanking your representative, you have the wrong representative. Once again, epic fail. So my question is very simple. Why have a Republican Party if they aren't going to fight and if they aren't going to be effective, loyal opposition? We'll take your calls with the answer to that question when we get back. 323-746-TALK. Hey, you are listening to the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. And we've been talking about the epic failure of the Republican Party. And I posed the question, and I'm going to pose it again, given that... And by the way, I'm going to give you the number if you want to call in and answer my question or respond. 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255. But given that the Republican Party has not opposed the Obama agenda at all, the fundamental transformation of America has not been undermined by effective and loyal opposition. The theft of and confiscation of your resources, your finances, your money, your hard-earned earnings has taken place under the Obama administration while they continue to grow government. The continual creeping infringement, the never-ending nonstop assault on your natural rights, particularly your First Amendment, Second Amendment, meaning they want to shut you up, and then they want to disarm you so they can shut you up even more. They don't like opposition. They don't want to hear from you. They don't believe they rule at your consent because they believe Obama was not and is not a president. Obama is an agent. He is an agent of change. He is an agent of a fundamental shift. He was sent here by powerful forces to wage a war of retribution against Americans, to literally take back and make America pay for what he perceives, and many on the left, and all you have to do is take a history course in American college, whether it's private or public, it doesn't really matter unless it's something like Hillsdale where you're actually going to get the truth. But most of them teach from books like Howard Zinn, The People's History of the United States of America, where they've completely changed and transformed the history to be something different, where America's the bad guy every time. And look, our country is not perfect. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've done a lot of things wrong. But we are that bright, shining light on a hill. We're a beacon of hope around the world. And that light has been extinguished. It has been blown out by Barack Hussein Obama, who is laughing. Even now, as he's boarding an airplane or flying an Air Force One, he is laughing at how the Republicans have done his bidding, not yours. They have pushed every single thing he's asked for. They have not opposed effectively a single one. Now they've pretended to oppose. So that's a big difference. That's called a shell game. That's called a kabuki dance, where everything's choreographed, and you have congressmen who go on TV, Fox News, and talk tough. Yeah, that Obama, I hate Obamacare, and yeah. Then they go out on the golf course with Obama and his buddies, and the people who funded and financed and backed and wrote the bill that Nancy Pelosi told us we had to pass before we could find out what was in it. How in the world did we lose that one? The American people were on the side of the Republicans. They didn't want the government to take over and screw up our healthcare system. And by the way, and you know, maybe this is a good topic for next week. I know it's going to be kind of a tough week for politics, given that we're in a lot of holiday mode, Christmas shopping mode, and all that. But Obamacare, and if you've had the misfortune of having to access your health care insurance or go to a doctor or have someone in the family need any kind of medical treatment, you've discovered that it's all cost shifting. The so-called Affordable Care Act just shifted the cost and inflated the real cost of treatment, of services, of products that you would need during a medical incident. So you are paying more, just like you were before when people used the emergency room, when the illegal aliens used the emergency room as their primary doctor. You're paying more. And that right there was an epic opportunity for the Republican Party to threaten to shut down the government before Christmas and stand up for the American people on Obamacare, on this massive immigration from Muslim countries that people are now deeply concerned about. Nope, they didn't stop any of it. They talked real big. They said a lot of crap, and it turned out to be a load of crap. Because in the end, the Republican Party has shown its colors. They have waved the white flag, and they have surrendered to the Democrats. So you heard earlier, we had a caller on, I believe it was Dan from Victorville. Yes, I know, Dan, I'm going to get you in trouble with your wife. He just gave $900 to the Democrat Party. He is a lifelong conservative. He didn't give the money to the Democrat Party because he believes in the Democrat Party. He just believes that the Democrat Party should take ownership when they collapse what is left of America. He'd rather see Hillary Clinton do it. He thinks she'll do it faster, and then we can get back to the business of rebuilding and fighting for our freedoms, and at least fighting an enemy rather than fighting those who are shooting us from behind in an incident of fratricide, where we're literally being taking friendly fire. It's unfriendly fire from those who are supposed to be our friends. And so if you have a representative within the sound of my voice who voted for this colossal cluster bleep, you know what, where we are giving $1.68 billion. By the way, you know what? If you're Christmas shopping, you need to cut back on gifts you're giving to people. You need to be prepared to pay more in taxes, because the Republicans didn't bother to fight any of the insanity of this spending by this government. They gave Obama carte blanche. Hey, you want 300,000 immigrants from Muslim countries next year? Done. Done. That is the Republican Party's answer to Donald Trump. You stand with Donald Trump. The Republican Party stand with Obama. Let me say that again. You're standing with Donald Trump and saying, hey, I've got some concerns here. I want to get this figured out before we let a whole lot more people who might possibly, even if only 1% or 10% or whatever the number is, have sworn allegiance to ISIS or to jihad, or they're so fundamentalist and they've bought into the insane ideology of hatred and murder that is uniquely Islamic in nature, because they have the concept of jihad. And you know what? I don't want to be tolerant of those who want to kill me. I want them out of my country. Or if I can help it, I don't want to let them in until we figure this out, until we come up with a process to vet people properly. Is that asking too much? Well, evidently it was. And so if you are in the high desert region, if you're listening on Talk 960, your representative is Congressman Paul Cook, who I heard him give a speech about a month ago where he claimed that he was leading the fight against the terrorists. What a joke. What a pathetic joke for him to vote for this instead of representing you. This is an embarrassment. This is what the Republican Party has come to voting to give 1.68 billion with a B to illegal aliens so that they can be comfortably resettled, to giving gargantuan amounts of money, funding 300,000 visa applications for immigrants from Muslim countries, to fully funding Obama's executive amnesty, fully funding Obama's Obamacare, fully funding Obama's Planned Parenthood, fully funding Obama's Syrian refugee program. Sorry, I know you Americans have concerns about it, but the GOP doesn't believe that they have to listen to you. So the Republican Party just told you to go F yourself. The Republican Party just told you, we don't need you. You base people. We don't want you, the Republican base, anymore. We want you to go somewhere else because we know better. And Marco Rubio didn't even show up because he's too much of a pansy to be counted. If you were tuning in for happy-go-lucky, you came to the wrong place. If you're looking for truth, the Radio Free California Network is the place you need to be. 3 to 6 every weekday, the Tim Donnelly Show. We'll take your calls and your reaction to all of this when we return. 323-746. Talk is the number. Be right back. Welcome back. 323-746. Talk is our number. That's 323-746-8255 if you want to get it on it. You know, I opened up the show talking to you about the fact that there was a classroom assignment disguised as calligraphy for a geography class. First of all, what the hell are you doing calligraphy in geology? Or I'm sorry, geography. Geography is about where things are. But this was really Islamic indoctrination disguised as geography. And I guess people just don't pay that much attention, but when this happened and they were required, the students were required to write out specific phrases from the Shahada, which is an Islamic religious doctrinal book, and they wrote out the following phrase: there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Think about that. Meanwhile, that was in Virginia. Meanwhile, a couple of states over in Kentucky, the Charlie Brown Christmas special that's been performed on television and broadcast on television for decades was bereft of the moment. It was being enacted by students as a play. They were forbidden. They were banned because one individual complained that there's a part in there where the meaning of Christmas is described, and it's the birth of Christ. And it is literally, they read a couple of scriptures out of Luke that describe the birth of Christ and the events surrounding it. There is no doctrine. There is no call to, there's no altar call. There's no, hey, here's the Trinity. There's only one true living God, and Jesus Christ is his son, and the Holy Ghost, and together they make the Holy Trinity. None of that. None of that was in there. Just historical facts. But because one person complained, the students were banned from talking about the actual real meaning of Christmas, the historical meaning, i.e., the birth of Christ. And now, another controversy, this one out of Minnesota. You know, I expect this stuff in California. I don't know why we're tolerating this garbage all over the South and the what am I trying to say? The middle of the country. used to live there. The Midwest. Hello? It just doesn't, it's not fitting. When you say Minnesota and Michigan, see, I actually literally feel chills in my bones because you don't see the sun for like 4 months. And I can feel that cold, deep, when the average temperature is 0, that means half the time it's below. And you can feel cold in a way you've never felt in your life. People in California know nothing about cold. 20 degrees is a holiday for people in Minnesota and Michigan this time of year. It's shorts weather. But the controversy erupted over one of the songs students performed during a Minnesota public high school Thursday night holiday concert. It was called Ayed Una Zayed Zan Bikaka. Well, I'm sure I butchered that. It's a Ramadan-inspired song which included the phrase Allahu Akbar, which is Arabic for God is great. And if you think you've heard that phrase before and you have a bad reaction to it, it's what the terrorists on the planes that crashed into the Twin Towers and the ones who crashed into the Pentagon and the ones who have eventually crashed into a field in Pennsylvania, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, that is what they were shouting. God is great. Their God, Allah. Now, why the hell they would be performing this at a Christmas holiday event, given that Ramadan is in June, is way beyond me. Christian and Jewish songs were reportedly performed by the Blaine High School choral, as was the Arabic song commemorating Ramadan, the Muslim holiday. It was slated to be sung during the audience participation portion of the concert, according to Anoka Hennepin School District in Blaine, Minnesota. On Facebook, the parent of a 9th grade Blaine choir student posted the lyrics to the Ramadan song the choir practiced, according to the local news station. Among the English phrases in the song were, "Thank you, Allah, for this blessed day." Muslims are singing praises to Allah and remembering Allah and all praise for you. The comments, well, you can imagine. I'm going to go to the phones for a moment and see who we have. Hey, give me your first name and city, please.
This is Rose from Victorville.
Hey, Rose, how are you?
Well, I'll be good one of these days. Maybe when we get Trump in there as president.
So you're thinking maybe 1/20/17.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Last day.
We've got a
last
really
day for Obama.
We've got a really rough year ahead of us.
Well, if this is any indication,
preachers are president. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. If past events are a predictor of future, then we are in for some rough sledding because the Republicans are no longer fighting Obama. They're paving the way for his agenda and smiling and apologizing to him for the rest of us.
Exactly. They've taken the Kool-Aid. They have taken the Kool-Aid.
Well, no, actually, they've made the Kool-Aid. They made the Kool-Aid. They're trying to force feed it to us.
Well, I think people need to wake up. It's time for people in this country to get down on their knees and beg God forgiveness for all the horrible things we've let go by.
Well, I would be in agreement with you on that. But not only get on your knees, then stand up and get ready to fight back. Anyway, thanks for the call, Rose. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, you are listening to the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. You know, I haven't been able to hear back from my good friend Rob Schneider. He was going to come on and plug his show, so we'll probably do that sometime next week. So that means I don't have to get happy-go-lucky. I'm not going to give you a break while you're out holiday. Did I just say that? Somebody hit me. Christmas shopping, or you might be Hanukkah shopping. I don't know. Listen, I want you to hear what is going on in public schools. This is, there was a choir, Blaine, excuse me. This is in Blaine, the Blaine High School in Minnesota. So it's in Blaine, Minnesota. And they were singing a Ramadan song during the Christmas/holiday concert for some reason, even though Ramadan, by the way, is in June, not December, like Hanukkah and Christmas. So as I was reading you some comments that were posted up on Facebook, and this one woman had a very interesting experience. She said that all of a sudden I found us singing the words Allahu Akbar. Now think about that. That's exactly what terrorists say. Islamic jihadists, that's what they say when they're getting ready to kill innocent people, when they're getting ready to do a suicide bombing, when they're getting ready to blow up people who are watching the Boston Marathon or who are minding their own business on a military base trying to keep America safe. But political correctness and the policies of this president and the timid, pathetic inability, the epic failure, the ineptness, what is that word for somebody who can't get it done? Not erectile dysfunction. There's something else, but I can't think of it. But that's the Republican Party. You've got Obama pushing the Muslim Brotherhood into every office. They're pushing it through the public school system. This should surprise no one. They're indoctrinating your children while they're pushing any reference, even historical references to Christ, out. And Allah and Islam and Muhammad are in. So she says, all of a sudden I found us singing the words Allahu Akbar. And I wondered about that, and I looked around, and no one I saw looked alarmed. I've thought a lot about that since. One thing I realized is this is precisely how a student would feel in a class that could conceivably sing or pray a Christian song or prayer that was foreign to their religion. This is why we do not have led prayers and such in schools, and I get that. Another person wrote a comment on the local television station's website and said, is this for real? Ramadan was in June, July of this year. Eid al-Fitr was Saturday, July 18th. Christmas and Hanukkah are actually in December, so it makes sense to sing that music. This is bizarre. And another one said, it's been brought to my attention that nobody will be forced and the grade will not be affected. The district said students, if uncomfortable, would not have to sing the Ramadan song. Think about that. They would ban a Christian song, but no problem. There is no place for this. And the reason? These are the words that they say before they kill innocent people in the name of Allah. And I'm going to get into the plans that the terrorists had here in San Bernardino, but I'm going to the phones here. Give me your first name and city, please.
Yeah, this is Sandy from Victorville.
Hi, Sandy. How are you?
I'm doing good. Merry Christmas, Tim.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you. The reason I'm calling, the word you were looking for to describe the Republican Party is inept. Totally inept.
Well, I was saying inept, but I was looking for the word for impotent. Impotent. Well, that's the word. Thank you, Sandy. Impotent. They're impotent.
A couple of other words. They are. But, this thing with being required to sing anything or say anything with Allahu Akbar, no freaking way. That's just complete BS.
I'm shocked that Americans didn't. I'm shocked that Americans didn't stand up in that store and say, "This is a." I would have stood up and said, "No, hell no. We are going to have a service tomorrow honoring the life of Michael Wetzel, who was 37 years old, slaughtered in the prime of his life, leaving behind 6 children for people who uttered these kind of words. And this is not acceptable.
See, and that, to me, if you say that, it's like you are giving respect to these people who murdered everyone at the World Trade Center, those people in Paris, and the people in San Bernardino. And I was down there when that happened with San Bernardino, and that was a nightmare. I was at Loma Linda, and there was a bomb threat while I was there. It was just ridiculous.
Well, and our pathetic president shows up today instead of the day after or the day after the day after. He comes a week and a half too late, and he's just using this for headlines so that nobody will criticize him while he's gallivanting off to Hawaii after sticking it to the next generation with this monolithic, colossal cluster, you-know-what, of a budget. But these pathetic, impotent Republicans can't do anything. And I'm trying to figure out why we even have a Republican Party.
I don't know. I just hope Donald Trump gets in, and maybe we can just blow those weirdos out of there and get some new.
You know what, Sandy?
In.
I figured out what I want for Christmas.
No.
I want an American president. I want an American in that White House, and I want to see some patriots rise up and start running and run these rhino establishment, liberal, leftist traitors out of our Congress. Anyway, thanks for the call. You have a great Christmas with your family. I'm going to take another call here. Looks like it's from Lake Arrowhead. Give me your first name and city, please.
Hi, this is Greg from Redlands, California.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Well, very well. I just wanted to talk about this budget. I mean, it's not just terrible. It's a betrayal of everything that they say they campaign for, and when they run and try to get elected, and then they get to Washington, and I mean, just since Ryan's been Speaker, it's been just unprecedented level of giving the voters that sent them there the middle finger.
Let me ask you this, Greg.
The bill that was passed. Sure.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. What possible difference would there be between Paul Ryan and Nancy Pelosi being the Speaker?
Amnesty.
Well, no, Paul Ryan's in favor of amnesty.
He is, but if Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker, there'd be a majority of Democrats that are also for amnesty.
Right. But my point is, on this bill, on anything that's happened since Paul Ryan became Speaker, would there have been any difference if we had Nancy Pelosi instead of Paul Ryan?
I can't see any.
I mean, doesn't that alarm you?
Well, it does, and it's I used to think that the Republicans were just spineless and cowardly, and they went along with this. But I'm starting to think that they really support what Obama is doing, and that's why they're really just giving in and giving them everything they want: refugees, resettlement of illegal aliens. Money for
let me pause you there for a minute. Because when you say refugees, like the Syrian refugees, bringing 300,000 Muslim immigrants or immigrants from Muslim countries where we can't properly vet them. We've already figured that out. That department is a colossal disaster. They don't even look at the social media of people who are potential jihadists. So we're going to let all those people in. Now, let me just refresh the memory of the audience if you didn't hear last night's news reports. What they wanted to do in 2012, Farouk, the guy who killed the 14 people in San Bernardino, including 2 of my neighbors, what they wanted to do was blow up the library or a theater at the Riverside Community College. And then they wanted to previous to that or during that in the getaway, throw a bunch of pipe bombs onto the freeway, blow up innocent Americans, blockade the freeway, and then get out of the car and Quentin Tarantino style, just walk up and just blow people away and kill as many people as they could until they got killed. And one of them was charged with sniping and killing as many of the first responders as possible. That is what they are funding, allowing people who might possibly have that mindset and letting them into the country unvetted.
Well, almost certainly some of them will have that mindset.
Sure, we know that.
It's almost certain they will.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I was a little reticent there. Thanks for kicking me in the teeth there, Greg, because you're right. They will have it. Now, we don't know if it'll be 1 or 100, but 1 is one too many.
A survey of Syrian refugees by an Arab polling company shows that 13% admit that they support ISIS.
That's astonishing. So if you're going to bring in 300,000, 13% of that is going to be some number, let's say close to 40,000.
Right. Now, they're not all going to go commit a terrorist attack, but it shows their mindset.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, as the revelations come out about this San Bernardino Christmas party massacre, it becomes more and more disturbing to me, because here's the simple thing. The government can't protect us. That is a fact now. If you don't get that, then I can't help you. But once you understand that, now the Second Amendment is no longer a social issue, Republican Party. The social issue, the Second Amendment is about my rights as a human being to defend myself and my family and my freedom from the government's tyranny. And it's as simple as that. And if we don't have people in there that understand that, and the Republicans will not fight on that because they get criticized too much, and they're terrified of being criticized.
Well, guns were the difference between Garland, Texas, and San Bernardino.
Well put. Well put. Well, Greg, thank you for calling in. I've got to take a break. Do you mind holding over for a minute? All right, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back with the final segment of the Tim Donnelly Show here on a Christmas shopping Friday afternoon. Hey, welcome back to the show. We're talking with Greg from Redlands, and we've been talking about the massive betrayal, the colossal cluster, you-know-what, by the Republican Party. Greg, I got to ask you a question here. As you know, conservatives put the Republicans in the majority, and they did so for two specific reasons. One was to undo Obamacare. The other was to completely ice Obama's executive amnesty for illegals, to defund it.
Yes.
And instead, they just took a pass. Every time they had a chance to go fight and be unpopular with the media folks, the media class and the political class, they took a pass and they screwed over the people.
Right, and the Syrian refugee issue, this is one where the polls, it's 2/3 or more of the American people don't want to bring in the unvetted and unvettable Syrian refugees, and even when they got the people on their side, they won't fight.
Good point. I'm going to bring on one more caller here to join the conversation. Hey, give me your first name and city. You're on with me and Greg. Ben
from Apple Valley.
Hey, Ben. Welcome to the show.
All right, so
good. We only got a couple minutes left, so
I got it real quick. The first thing we got to do, we got to figure out how to get you syndicated so that your voice is heard all over this country, and we got to get you more air. We got to get you more airtime, Tim, because the things that you're promoting for the American people, more people need to hear.
Well, I appreciate that, Ben.
There's a couple of things that we've eliminated from our society that need to be brought back. And one of them is, as I grew up through school, I always, my mornings in school were started with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we've lost God in what we do with our children and in our society. And when you do that, when you take God away from your money and you take God away from your government and you take God away from your laws, what are we left with?
We're left with a godless society. And
right.
and
a godless society that does. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it's freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. That's the First Amendment, and that's it.
No, I agree. One of the points I was going to comment last night, and I missed you, but as far as our gun rights, my father was an elected law enforcement official for almost 20 years, and my dad taught me that I need to own guns. I need to have guns. I need to be able to protect my family. But the one thing that I really learned from him was I need to know how to use that gun, and I implore to your listeners, learn your weapons. Don't only learn, hey, I'm going to go down and buy a gun and put it next to my nightstand and I'm going to have it. Get involved, get into competition shooting, get to where you understand that weapon, how to use it, how to change the magazines, how to load it, exactly what you're doing when you pull that trigger. But when it comes to stockpiling, I keep hearing they stockpiled weapons and they stockpiled ammunition, and I would shoot 1,000 rounds in a weekend as I practice for competition. So get into 3 guns, get into where you can pick up any weapon and you know how to use it and you know how that weapon works, because there's a time coming.
Ben, you are exactly spot on, and Greg, thank you guys for bringing these great points forward. Look, I'm going to have an expert on who is going to be doing a class. I'm trying to get some of the details worked out. And there's also an event that's going to be done in the high desert, and I'm going to be promoting it, be part of it, because we're going to make it possible. Not only are we going to inform and educate, we're going to make it possible for you to engage. And you know what? Thanks to Sean McNeil for all of his help keeping this show on the air, all of our sponsors and you. God bless you and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show out.